What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Heco Celan Revolution 3 speakers. This company can't miss. Oh my God. Until recently, this was a company I had never heard of. I reviewed the Heco Aurora 300 just a couple of months ago because a lot of you guys in the comments were telling me how great it was. I looked them up. I saw how incredibly good looking they were and how reasonably priced they were at just $419. I hopped online. I bought a pair with my own money just to review them, and they blew me away. Easily one of my top recommendations in a speaker in and around 400 bucks. They sell for $419 through Audio Advice, and I freaking love them. Absolutely, like top tier potential product of the year type of speaker. And I was like, I wonder what Heco's other stuff sounds like, right? But I didn't want to spend more money. I'd already spent like 419 bucks on the Aurora 300s. And as luck would have it, I met the team from Audio Advice at Expona. And they were like, hey, you look kind of familiar. You reviewed the Aurora 300. And I was like, whoa. So it was pretty cool. They had actually seen the video. The marketing girl was there. I had a chat with her and I was like, hey, I would love to check out the Celan Revolution 3. And she was like, no problem. We can make that happen. And I thought that was super cool. I emailed her as soon as I got back from Expona. She sent me a review sample. I've had these going on about, I want to say about 8 weeks now. And man, like I said in the beginning of this video, this brand can't miss. They very good, very good. Nemo propaganda, very happy. Very much do I like this speaker. Let me contain my excitement and let's do this review the same way we generally do. I'll throw the main specs on screen so you guys can check that out. I'll tell you about some specs and standout features, what they sound like, how they compare to other speakers in and around this price point, how they compare to some more expensive options, and then we'll wrap up the video. So, first standout feature, the price versus fit, finish, quality, and aesthetics. $1,100 is what they sell for on Audio Advice. And what you get for $1,100 in cabinetry and fit and finish and aesthetics is leaps and bounds beyond what you generally find in and around that price. You get a cabinet that doesn't have any opposing walls. I suppose perhaps the front and rear baffle are opposing, but the top and bottom aren't, the sides aren't. Curves all around this cabinet, piano gloss paint, no vinyl. You're getting real metal terminal plates. Bi-wireable if you're into that. They do come with included jumpers. You might notice there's an extra binding post there. That's because you get two options. You could either set these up to be neutral, or there's another positive terminal for +2 on the treble for those that like extra air, extra clarity, more openness, and so on. So the port does look to be metal. These bits that are shiny, these are all real metal. It comes with little footers even underneath. I removed them. They're threaded in case you want to put these on a media console. Again, what you're getting in fit and finish and cabinetry and quality for 1,100 bucks, crazy. First standout feature. Second standout feature, I suppose, is going to be that that +2 on the treble tab I talked about. That's kind of unique. I don't see that too often. Metal, the bits, just big hats off to Heco. Another interesting thing, usually speakers that are made in another country like Europe, which these are, not necessarily made in, but the company is housed in that other country, they're usually more expensive in the United States than they are in the EU. That's not the case with the Celan Revolution 3. In Europe, it sells for 1,300 euros, and here in the US, it sells for a little bit less at 1,100 bucks. Pretty cool stuff. I wish Focal was the same. Focal costs like double here in the US almost. Anyhow, I digress. We'll talk more about Focal when we get to those comparisons. So, those are the standout features. Fit, finish, quality, impeccable for the money. What do they sound like? Because they could look beautiful, right? But if they don't sound amazing, it doesn't matter. I love them. I absolutely love them. Heco, can't miss. It's third time saying it now. You guys know, you guys have watched a lot of my videos, I'm sure. Some of you are probably new to my content. I don't really exaggerate. I don't really care. I just kind of tell you what it is. If the product's good, it's good. I'm telling you. If it's just okay, I'm going to tell you what it sounds like, this and that. I would own this. I like this a lot. Let's start with the treble. We have treble that is going to be very well defined in its leading edges. I would not say it has an aggressive attack, however, and that delicate balance, being able to accomplish that at this low of a price point, very, very good. Oftentimes in the $1,000 and below category, if a speaker has a good leading edge with the treble, it could come across a little rough or unrefined at times. Not here. The level of refinement is quite high. So we've got clean and clear, nice attack, good snap, good decay. You know what I mean? Good dynamics in the treble region. Like if there's like a cymbal crash, it really like captures you. It projects into the room nicely, but again, without being overly aggressive, but still very clean, very articulate, very clear. Good imaging, good spatial separation. That's one area where the Celan Revolution 3 was leaps and bounds above the much more affordable Aurora 300. The Aurora 300, I love that speaker, but mostly warm from top to bottom, treble a little bit on the dark side of neutral. Some people may feel it could be more open. I personally loved it. I think it was a great sound. But the Celan Revolution 3 gives you a lot more of that high-end clarity in the top end, that detail retrieval, that clarity, that openness, that sense of scale, and so on. That's enough about the treble. Moving down to the mid-range, I wouldn't say it's as colored as the Aurora 300. I felt the Aurora 300 had more of like a tonally romantic mid-range, which I loved. The Celan Revolution 3 still has a little bit of that, but a little bit cleaned up, a little bit more towards the side of neutrality, but still a little bit warm and rich enough to sound very nice, very enjoyable, very pleasing, to give male vocals a good amount of body to their voice. Female vocals still sound nice, clean and clear. They project well into the room and so on. Mid-range was great. I really liked it. Moving down to the bass, the Aurora 300, the cheaper little brother, had a good strong bass. So does the Celan Revolution 3. Celan Revolution 3 just cleans up that bass a little bit. Its note-to-note distinction is a little bit cleaner. You know, the way it delivers that bass sounds a little bit more confident, a little bit more articulate, and so on. From top to bottom, what we've got going on here is everything I loved about the much more affordable Heco Aurora 300 is just better without any complaints in the Celan Revolution 3. The biggest difference I would say is the Aurora 300 leaned a little bit on the dark side of neutral in the treble, whereas the Celan Revolution 3 is going to be mostly neutral in its treble quantity, unless you use the +2 tab, which I did do depending on which amplifier I was using. When I was using my Kinky Studio preamp and monoblocks, which are my reference pieces, Kinky Studio sound is just a smidgen forward on the treble. I felt the neutral tap sounded best. When I was using the Hegel H190, I preferred using that +2 tab. When I used the Thomson Stereo Galleon, I went back to that neutral tab. These speakers, another cool thing about them, very easy to drive. The sensitivity is 90 dB. It doesn't matter what kind of amp you have, whether it's an inexpensive AVR that doesn't have a whole lot of power, or a really powerful, monoblock setup, or something with a lot of current. These speakers are easy to drive. They're going to give you a lot of volume and a lot of clarity, regardless of amplification. And that's another thing I noticed about the more affordable Aurora 300. They weren't picky with amplification. Heco knows how to make a really good speaker that sounds very nice, very clean, very clear, but still has some character to it, still has some tonal richness to it, whether that be in the mid-range or in the bass and so on. This is a speaker that the best way I could say it is like this. It's what the hobby's all about. Enjoyment, pleasure, satisfaction, happiness, emotional connection to the source material. I love these. I don't know what I'm going to do in my end of the year video. 2023 has been an interesting year for me. There's been a lot of firsts. There's a lot of brands I never covered that I'm covering now in 2023. Heco is one of them, and it has impressed the hell out of me. I found out recently they have 2 more speakers. They're not in the US, unfortunately. But if those other 2 speakers that they have come to the US, I am going to get my hands on them. One of them is a model that sits between Aurora and Celan. The other one sits above Celan. I want to say it's like $4,500 for the pair. I'm really interested to see what those can do, because these, very good. So I've told you about their standout features. I've told you about that amazing quality. I've told you they sound amazing. I've told you I love them like 15 times. But I haven't given you much context by way of comparing them to other speakers in and around this price point, so let's do that. Around $1,000 we have the Focal Cora 806, recently discontinued, but still a very popular speaker that I reviewed a while ago. I like that speaker a lot, very good speaker. $990 I believe was the last price it sold for. These are $1,100, kind of same wheelhouse in terms of price. First and foremost, fit finish cabinetry is superior on the Heco Celan Revolution 3. The Focal Core 806 gives you a vinyl wrapped cabinet with, I'm not sure is a painted front baffle or if it's a polished like polymer or plastic. I'm not sure. I owned a pair for many years, but I could never tell what finish that was. The Celan Revolution 3 is simply superior in terms of build quality. Let's talk about the sound. The Cora 806 is, again, a mostly neutral affair, a little bit more energetic in the treble region, a little bit more revealing, I would say, but the Celan is a little bit more refinement. It sounds a little bit more natural. The Focal Core 806 could be a little bit analytical, a little bit dry in the mid-range. The Heco Celan Revolution 3 isn't, super warm and organic and romantic and chocolatey. No, it's still very neutral in the mid-range, but it has enough character to it to not sound dry, overly analytical, or sterile. The Focal Core 806 could come across a little sterile at times. Moving down to the bass, the Focal Core 806 had a very quick and articulate bass, but not a whole lot of it. The Heco Celan Revolution 3 has tremendously more and sounds quite a bit more confident and powerful in the bass region and in the mid-range. So overall, it's an easy pick for me. If I was between the Focal Core 806 or the Heco Celan Revolution 3, I would easily pick the Heco Celan Revolution 3. Let's talk about another speaker that's $100 more, the ELAC UBR62. I've owned a pair of ELAC UBR62s for like 6 to 9 months now, and I still haven't reviewed them. I promise, guys, I'll review them one of these days. It's just when I get review samples, those take priority over stuff I bought with my own money because the review samples, I generally only have about 60 days with them. Then I have to get them back to the manufacturers. I don't get to keep all this stuff, guys, So the ELAC UBR62, its cabinet is built well. It is a good cabinet, but the finish, Heco Celan Revolution 3 is top tier. You get that gloss painted finish. You have more curves on the cabinet. You know those non-opposing side walls and top and bottom walls. The ELAC gives us I believe it's a painted finish on the front baffle and then vinyl wrapped on everything else. So easy win, again, goes to aesthetics, having that painted finish on the Heco. The ELAC's front ported, the Heco's rear ported. That's not something that makes a huge difference. I think some people believe that a front ported speaker could have so look, the location of the port doesn't really affect too much on how bass loads the room. You're still going to want to give the speakers a good amount of space from the wall and things like that. Anyhow, let's do the darn comparison. Let me tell you about the difference in how they sound. The ELAC UBR62 is a good speaker for the money, don't get me wrong, but overall, I think the Heco Celan Revolution 3 outclasses it pretty much from top to bottom overall. The treble on the UBR62 is good, but there's something that happens with that mid-range and that tweeter. I don't get the best driver integration. I sit about 7 to 8 feet away, so I'm giving it some distance. I feel like the Heco Celan Revolution 3 just has better driver integration, so it sounds more natural. Its top end was more dynamic, had more snap to it, more clarity, more detail without sounding forced, and overall simply sounded more effortless. The ELAC UBR62, I wouldn't say it sounds congested per se or anything like that, but by direct comparison, the Celan Revolution 3 was much more effortless. So those details were simply coming out into the room, where with the ELAC, it felt a little bit forced, again, by direct comparison. The ELAC UBR62 could get just ever so slightly sibilant, despite being just a little bit darker than the Celan, and that's an area where I'd say it's just simply parts choice. I think Heco uses a much nicer and a much more expensive tweeter than ELAC does in the UBR62. Moving down to the mid-range, both speakers actually have a very good mid-range. This is one area where my hat is off to ELAC. They've been nailing mid-range in speakers for a long time now, and I think it's a reason a lot of people like them. I would say the mid-range is pretty much a wash, but I did like the Heco Celan Revolution 3s just a little bit more. Maybe it was just the aesthetics selling me. I couldn't tell you. The mid-range, I would say kind of close enough. Moving down to the bass, this is where they start to become quite a bit different. The ELAC UBR62 is just a little bit more well-defined in the mid-bass region. I believe it's a little bit boosted in that range, whereas the Celan Revolution 3 is more linear with its bass, so it's going to punch harder. It's going to have a fuller sound. You want to give both speakers a good amount of room from the rear wall. The Celan Revolution 3 has the more bass for sure. The ELAC UBR62 has that little bit of mid-bass bump that gives you the illusion of having a little bit more definition, but it's more tuning, if you will. But the biggest difference really between the two speakers is the ELAC UBR62 is quite hard to drive, or the Celan Revolution 3 is very easy to drive. Why does that matter besides wattage? Some of you might say, hey, I've got a 1,000 watt power amp. What do I care if a speaker is easy to drive or hard to drive? I'll tell you why. In my experience, harder to drive speakers are not low volume champions. They're just not. They need current and power, and they need to play loud, figure 80 plus dB, 85 dB even from the listening position to really sound great. Whereas easier to drive speakers, like the Heco Celan Revolution 3s, or like a lot of Focal speakers, sound fantastic at lower volumes. Their sweet spot is wider, and that's one thing I really like about easier to drive speakers. So if you listen at lower volumes, the ELAC UBR62s, just take that off your list. It's a harder to drive speaker, you're not going to like it. It likes to be 80 to 85 dB, whereas the Celan Revolution 3, low volumes, no problem. Still clean, still clear, still dynamic, still effortless, still resolving, still refined, and so on. Anyways, I think you get my point. The Celan Revolution 3 is better than the ELAC UBR62. Moving on. Some of you guys wanted to know how it compares to much more expensive speakers, because I think in some regions the Celans are $2,000. Let's talk about the Bucart S400 Mark II. I love that speaker. It's one of my favorite speakers. It's my reference speaker. It's my daily driver. $2,200 for the Bucart S400 Mark II, so literally double the price. A little bit of a shocker here. Again, the finishing on the Heco Celan Revolution 3 to me did seem quite a bit nicer. The Bucart does give us a painted finish, but it's a matte painted finish. So the Celan is going to have more of that wow factor, being the high gloss. Both speakers are finished nicely, but the Celan does have the more complex cabinet, the more beautiful cabinet, than the Bucart just being more of like a rectangle, right? Which I love about that. I love the aesthetics of the Bucart. I don't want them to have a curved cabinet. I think it looks beautiful with its rectangular cabinet. The sound. So from starting with the top end, well, let me tell you the biggest difference really. The Bucart S400 Mark II is going to have a bigger soundstage by quite a bit. That's one area where that speaker just absolutely shines. The Heco Celan Revolution 3 and the ELAC UBR62, that comparison I didn't really talk about soundstage because it was about the same. Imaging about the same. But once we throw the Bucart into the mix, at double the price, you are getting a soundstage that is quite a bit larger. You're getting bass that is substantially stronger. Everyone knows Bucart is a bass monster. The top end, a little bit different. Bucart's top end is, in this comparison, it's a little bit darker than the Heco, but its attack is a little bit sharper. Actually, they're both about equal in terms of sharpness, in terms of their treble attack, but the Bucart a little bit darker, Heco a little bit more forward. Both good detail, both good separation. I didn't find one to be better than the other necessarily, just slightly different. When push comes to shove, the Bucart does have the slightly more refined treble though, and at double the price, that's no surprise. Moving down to the mid-range, both speakers sounded great. Both speakers were cut from a similar cloth in the mid-range region because both speakers have good, confident bass that goes into the mid-range to give a sense of confidence in the mid-range and fullness that is natural. They both did a good job of that. Moving down to the bass, it's just a question of quantity. Both have good bass quality. The Bucart S400 being a bass monster just has substantially more output in terms of bass and extension, but it's double the price. Overall, the two speakers do sound very good. The Bucart overall just takes the edge in refinement, and again, at double the price, no surprise there. But if Bucart audio went out of business today and my S400 Mark IIs broke, I'd probably replace them with the Celan Revolution 3s. I'm not saying they sound the same, they don't. I just told you how they sound very different, but that's how much I like the Celan Revolution 3s. So let's see if we want to do any other comparison before we wrap this up. $1,100. What else is there? There's the Dynaudio Emit 10s. Those are like $800, so $300 cheaper. Very different sound. I like that speaker a lot. For $800, it's got outstanding treble. It's a little bit on the forward side of neutral, but very soft with its attack, so it's an interesting combination. Some people may not think it's bright, but it is a bright speaker. It's just very soft with its attack, so it's very easy on the ears. Mid-range on the Dynaudio is not as good as the Heco Celan Revolution 3. It's still very good, but the Dynaudio Emit 10 is a little bit of a bass-boosted speaker, and some of that bass blends up into the mid-range just a little bit too much. Not a whole lot, not bad. For $800, very, very good, but the Celan Revolution 3 is just a little bit better. Moving down to the bass region, the Dynaudio Emit 10, again, like I said, it's a bass-boosted speaker. The Heco Celan Revolution 3 is going to be more linear. Overall, the Dynaudio Emit 10 is an excellent speaker at $800. Make no mistake about it. But the Heco Celan Revolution 3 at $1,100 is worth every penny more that it cost over the Dynaudio Emit 10. So that's a few comparisons we've done. I think we just did 4. I think that's enough. More than that, it's just going to get out of control. If you have any questions, this YouTube channel does have a free Discord. Feel free to hop in there. I'll leave links down below. You can ask in the YouTube comments as well. I think that brings us to a close, guys. 10 out of 10. Would recommend this product, absolutely. If you're in the market for a speaker around $1,000 for the pair, I don't think you can do better than the Heco Celan Revolution. Oh, one more comparison. One more, sorry. Bucart P300. So I told you how it sounded compared to the much more expensive S400 Mark II, but how about the more affordable P300? That thing's like $1,400. The Celan Revolution 3 is $1,100. So, believe it or not, I like the Celan Revolution 3s over the P300s by quite a bit, and here's why. The P300 in a vacuum is a fine speaker. There's nothing wrong with it, but by direct comparison, the Heco Celan Revolution 3s is more open, it's more clear, it has a wider sweet spot. The Bucart P300 was harder to drive, and remember what I told you about harder to drive speakers that have a more narrow sweet spot. If you crank the P300 around 80, 85 plus dB, yeah, it's going to sound open, clean, and clear and things like that, but not everyone listens that loud. But regardless of volume, I do think the Heco Celan Revolution 3 is the better speaker. The Bucart P300 does have substantially more bass, I'll give it that, and there's not too much of a difference in their mid-range, but it's the treble. By direct comparison, the P300 sounds a little bit forced, whereas the Celan Revolution 3 just sounds incredibly effortless with its treble. Pretty rare that I say something is better than a Bucart product. I love that brand a lot, especially their S400. But in this specific situation, unless all you're looking for is serious bass, the Celan Revolution 3 would get my vote over the P300. So that is the final comparison. And that we've done 5, which is a lot of comparisons. So back to me wrapping up this video. If you have any questions, ask in the comments below, ask in my free Discord, and we can chat about it. Audio advice, thank you for the review sample. If Heco brings the more expensive model to the US, you will be hearing from me. I will be knocking on your door begging for a review sample. I love these speakers. I didn't want to make this review because once I make the review, I have to email Audio Advice and say, hey, I'm ready to send these back. Please send me a shipping label, and I don't want to do that. I kept the Aurora 300s I bought. I never sold them. Kind of want to keep these. We'll see what happens. Anyways, until next time, later.